Thanks for taking the time, man. A lot of demand to get you on the show. I think like every single day I get an email like, when are you gonna have Durianrider on the podcast? So by popular demand. And the funny thing too is I feel like every other guest I've had on the show, it seems like lately has been Aussie. So you're continuing the trend. I wanted to bring you on, and I want you to spin your yarn, man. Don't pull any punches. No rules. Nothing is out of bounds. I want to hear it straight from the source.
Cool.
And I've been following you for a long time. I can't say I've watched every single video, but I've watched quite a few. And you're an outspoken bloke, and you're not afraid to speak your mind. And I respect that, man. I appreciate that. We have different styles and how we approach things, but there's a need for guys like you. But yeah, man, I wanted to kind of peel back the layers a little bit. I mean, we want to talk about all the stuff that you're passionate about, but I think I wanted to start with talking a little bit more in depth about something that maybe you don't talk as much about, which is how this whole thing started for you. Like, what was going on? I mean, I know you were a very different guy when you were younger in terms of your diet and your fitness and what you were into and all that kind of stuff. But how did it all begin? Like, tell me about what your health was like before you started this journey.
I think as a kid, I was always sick. I'd go to hospital for digestive and breathing issues like asthma and Crohn's disease. And so when you're sick, you want to feel good, and then you get the days where you feel good, but it never lasted. So I just became obsessed about trying to connect the dots of what made me feel good and what made me feel bad. And it took me, I think, till I was probably maybe 1996, something like that, 98, where I actually started to make the connection between diet, what you eat, and how you feel. Before that, it was just like genetics or bad luck or some virus or some gastro thing getting around. But it never occurred to me. I think it's about 96, 98, those 2 years. I remember getting a voucher for McDonald's and eating a lot of burgers and just telling my friend one time, I don't feel so good. And I said, I think it might be the burgers. And she said, do you really think what you eat determines how you feel? And I'm like, maybe. I reckon maybe it does. And we laugh now, but
it's a radical concept.
That's how
Crohn's disease is no joke, man.
Yeah.
Crohn's disease is a serious deal. Like, talk a little bit about what it's like to have Crohn's disease.
Yeah, just you got to have a bathroom nearby. You're crapping blood, and you're just a lot of pain. I didn't have a good time, but I didn't really talk about it too much because as a kid or a teenager, you sort of been embarrassed about it, stuff like that. So you keep it pretty private.
Yeah, it's definitely something that people, I think now people talk about it more, but when I was younger, no one really talked about it because, it's like embarrassing and all that kind of thing. I mean, what were the doctors telling you when you would go in for, stuff revolving around having Crohn's?
They just said to my mum that I was making stuff up and things like that. The asthma, they could tell I had the asthma and stuff, so they gave me heaps of steroidal medication, things like that. But the digestive system was often I wouldn't go in anyway because I was too embarrassed to talk about it. But occasionally when I did go in, they did x-rays and stuff and got me to consume this radioactive stuff. And they just said, we can't find anything, Miss Johnson. I think your son's got a bit of imagination going on.
Oh, so they didn't even believe that you had it?
Correct.
Wow. So how did you finally figure out that that's what you had? I mean, you couldn't have self-diagnosed yourself with Crohn's at that age, did you? Or how did you finally figure out that that's what was going on?
That was only when I basically got over it that I worked out, well, that's what's happening, because I looked at the symptoms and I was like, okay, that's the symptoms, blah, blah, blah. And then a few other doctors later in my adult years said, yeah, you've got some digestive issues, stuff like that. I started to clean up my diet a little bit and symptoms got a lot better, and then I started doing sport. The sport definitely helped a lot, but it still wasn't perfect. And then once I went vegan, like everything just lifted, and I was like, "Whoa, this is how I'm meant to feel."
But what motivated you to try a vegan diet? Like, what was the impetus for that?
I had chronic fatigue. I started getting into cycling, started getting into sport, and I'd go train. I'd be all excited. I wouldn't do much training, but I'd just get burnt out. I'd just be so fatigued. I just couldn't get out of bed, and I was like, "What's going on?" And so I'd have to take time off, a few months off riding and stuff, and then met this guy one day, this real sort of naturopath, herbal sort of health freak, Mark Hock, and he just said, just try a vegetarian diet. And I'm like, what the hell is that? I don't want to be a hippie. And he just said, well, you're pretty sick, mate, and you're only young. So if you keep going what you're doing, you're going to get cancer, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, mate. So, you know, I don't care how fit you might think you are, but if you keep eating the crap you're eating, you're going to get sick. And I said, well, to be honest, I'm pretty sick right now, Mark, and I'll try anything. And after a couple of days, that was it. That was no turning back. And I've been vegan ever since.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I mean, I don't think I wasn't as sick as you, and I was certainly older, but what I remember about making the switch was just how dramatic it was in such a short period of time. You know, it didn't take very long for the body to respond. And that's like, it's like a watershed moment where you connect the dots all of a sudden on something you never really thought about before, like that connection between what you're putting in your body and how it's making you feel.
It was powerful.
Right?
It was powerful.
Right. I mean, when I started, I don't know what it was like for you, but I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I just tried it almost on a whim. It wasn't like I read a bunch of books or all the books that are out now. It was almost, you know, accidental. I didn't even have anyone telling me you should try a vegan diet. I just sort of experimented with it and was like, whoa, there's something going on here.
Definitely. And there was a lot of defining moments, a lot of people who contributed, and sort of little seeds got planted. People would say stuff about what's in McDonald's burgers, what's in meat's pies, and, you know, how meat doesn't digest in your colon and just sits there for years or whatever. Just little seeds of truth that I heard that eventually just became a full-grown root in my consciousness, and just it took hold and grew. So will you have this experience where you suddenly start to feel better? I mean, were you overweight then? Or no, I wasn't overweight.
So yeah, but you weren't that athletic then.
I was wanting to be. I was always, as a kid, I was always wanted to be one of those fit kids. I always get picked last on the sports day, and a lot of my friends from school now, they can't believe how fit I am. They're like, hang on, no, you're Harley from school. Like you're the guy who got picked last on the sports day. You're the guy who all the girls ran faster than. You're the guy who couldn't catch the ball or whatever. What are you doing now? You're running marathons. You're winning running races. How does that work? So right. I always wanted to be athletic. I really admired. I'd watch the Nike adverts on TV. You know, there is no finish line, stuff like that. And I'd always want to be like the kids riding the bikes around and be strong and stuff and have fitness and energy. I just wanted to have energy, but I never had it.
And then so now that you have this sort of new lease on life by changing your diet this way, so I guess you're saying that's what gave you the energy or the resurgence of vitality in order to kind of then pursue that? Definitely.
I think that's why I'm so evangelical and so passionate and so persistent and nagging, because I've felt so crap and I feel so good now, and I want everyone to feel how good I feel. Right. And so then how has it evolved since that first kind of experience? I mean, because you've continued to experiment and play around with different things to kind of where you're at right now, which I want to get into in a minute. Just sort of stumbled into raw foods, eating more fruit, understanding that fruit was actually a good option rather than just a snack. The concept of having fruit for a meal versus just a snack after a meal, that was definitely life-changing as well. And just talking about learning about low fat and how many grams of carbs to eat and how to be properly hydrated, when to eat, you know, things like that. Sleeping patterns.
Were you like reading a bunch of books then, or just sort of experimenting on yourself? Both, just reading, talking, emailing, nagging. So what were some of the books that you were reading that you found helpful? One of the first ones, my friend Paul Reed gave me a copy of Fit for Life by Harvey Diamond. And that was a real, very good book to start with for me. Talked about eating fruit for breakfast and lunch, and I started doing that. Boom, just felt great. Then got a book about raw food by Paul Nisson, and in that book, it was a pretty confusing book because it talked about breatharianism and stuff like that. And they had an interview with Doug Graham in there, and I was like, wow, of all the interviewees that Paul Nisson has interviewed, this Doug Graham guy, he's the only fit-looking person in the whole book. Everyone else looks like crap. Looks like they couldn't run around a block. Surely nice people, but I wanted energy. So I'm like, hey, this fit guy, he looks like he's got some energy. And so I just started doing some Google searching on Doug Graham and read some of his blogs and internet posts, and then eventually started getting an email contact with Doug and went from there. So was that before his 80-10-10 book came out? Or that was 2002. Right. And 2002 is when you first got in touch with him? Or I can't remember when his book came out. I know it's been out a little while. 2002, I got in contact with him briefly. 2003, I bought his
And actually, in 2002, I bought his books, Creating Health Programs, stuff like that. His How Much Fruit's Too Much Fruit CD. Basically, bought everything Doug had on sale at the time, and just listened to it over and over and over again. I do like 200k bike rides, just listen to it, repetition, and then got into contact with Doug on email, and he helped me out a lot for free as well. Very generous, and went from there. And then,
so it was pretty quick, like evolution from just sort of saying I'm a vegan to really getting on board with the high carbohydrate kind of subset of being vegan, right? Like that was like a pretty quick process, and you've never looked back. So it's been 10 years, 11 years now of doing this.
Yeah, 12 years being vegan, 11 years into the high raw foods vegan lifestyle.
Right. And you continue to excel athletically and win races and get faster. I mean, how old are you now?
36.
36.
It's a bit of a late bloomer.
Have you been racing this year?
Running races I have, yeah.
How's it going?
Yeah, good. I set my best times last year when I was doing a bit more training. This year I've been a bit lazy, but last year definitely set my PBs from marathon to 5K to the mile.
Right.
Still on about 10 miles a week average over the year.
And quite a bit of cycling. I mean, I know like was it last January when the Strava challenge happened and you logged more miles than anybody else on Strava for that? How many Ks did you end up riding that month?
6,190.
Right. And I mean, for people that don't know, Strava is a sort of a social network, an online community it started primarily for cyclists, and I think it's still predominantly for cyclists, but it's open for running and other fitness related exercises. But it's your way to kind of share your workout, and you can see the map and see the data if you upload your stuff from your Garmin, et cetera. And and it's pretty popular with professional cyclists. Like there's a lot of professional cyclists that are logging their rides on Strava, and they love to mix it up on there as well. And January is the time of year when they're putting in a lot of base miles. So you're basically logging miles when there are guys on, the Garmin team or, Liquid Gas or whoever who are also, doing it at the same time. So that's no small feat to be logging the kind of miles that somebody who's doing that for their profession is doing.
Yeah, it was a big ego challenge for me. I remember what I like about Strava, it's a big community. It's like Facebook for cyclists and runners. And it's for everyone. It doesn't matter how fit or unfit you are or how fit you're getting. Strava's for everybody. I remember training with Andy Schleck in January with the Radio Shack Trek team, and I met him in the city, and they're like, "Oh, you've been riding this morning. You look like you're already sweaty." I said, "Yeah, I've done 100K already." They're like, "Hey, it's only 8 o'clock. How did you do 100Ks? Well, I got on the bike at 4 o'clock this morning, Wow. And they're like, no way. Show me the Garmin. And they're like Andy Schleck and Jens Voigt are just going, bullshit. How are you riding so much, man? What's up with that? And they were tripping out. They were just, all the teams were tripping out. And then they started talking about it because I was riding a bamboo bike, and they're like, is that crazy vegan guy on his bamboo bike? And he's doing more, he's doing like 100Ks before he meets up with us, and then he does extra afterwards. And it was definitely a tough month, but it was good.
So, who was the runner up in that?
Some guy from Guadeloupe. Who was it was a bit of a controversy there. I was trash talking a lot of guys, trying to get them fired. Shocking,
man.
And so a few guys didn't want me to beat them, so they started doing manual entries. And a manual entry, for those who don't know, it's just you can just make up a number what you rode that day, but you don't have to GPS verify it.
Right.
So they were just saying, yeah, I rode 350 kilometers today or whatever, and they're just trying to piss me off and overtake me. But in the end, I still won. And this year, I was speaking with Strava, some of the admin at Strava, and they said this year for the 2014 base mold challenge, we're going to have no manual entries, so it can only be legit GPS verified data if you want to be in contention again. So that's going to make it more fair.
So you're going to hit it again.
Yeah.
All right, man. Yeah. So, I want to get into like where you went from sort of experiencing this on a personal level, like this resurgence in vitality that we were talking about, to stepping into this kind of not just an activist role, but your self-proclaimed like health vigilante kind of status on the internet. Like, how did that blossom? Like, what was the beginning of that? And I want to pull the veil back a little bit on like what motivates you and inspires you to kind of pursue your activism in this way.
I'd meet people in real life, and it was always a letdown. You know, they'd be like, I'd be writing books on health, and they'd be smoking cigarettes or whatever. It wouldn't make them bad people, but like, hang on, how can you say fruit's bad, but you're smoking cigarettes or you're eating at McDonald's or whatever? If you say fruit's bad. So I just wanted to like let their followers know that basically what you're getting taught isn't always correct.
Mm-hmm. I mean, was there a day where, you know, you posted online for the first time, or, you know, I mean, how did it kind of begin? I mean, when did you start your YouTube channel?
June 2008, I started it.
It wasn't that long ago, actually.
No.
I thought it would have been back a little bit further.
Yeah, freely, and other people said, you should do YouTube, and I'm like, I don't want to get involved with that stuff, you know, I just want to be like fruitarian and hang out in the jungle.
Right.
But then I realized, hang on, that's not going to help anybody. So I started doing YouTube.
But you made this conscious decision that you wanted to help people.
Yeah.
Right. So what was that about? Did that grow just out of the frustration of seeing people professing something that you believed wasn't working, or the confusion that was out there, or the misinformation, or what was it specifically?
A bit of both. Frustration on misinformation, frustration on people lying for marketing reasons, frustration on a lot of different levels. Just seeing people getting ripped off.
Right. And so you've come to this place now where, I mean, can you articulate like your basic message to people out there for somebody who might be listening who isn't familiar with kind of the work that you've done?
Basically, I promote a drug-free, 100% vegan, fruit-focused, high-carb, low-fat, vegan lifestyle. Promote going to bed as early as you can, drinking your water, focusing your life purpose, living that, and just being part of the solution versus part of the problem.
Uh-huh. So controversial, Harley. I can't believe people are upset with you.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Let loose a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, when you watch, and I'll put this in the show notes too, and I'll do an introduction ahead of time, but you know, you have a really powerful, like your intro video on your YouTube page is just like, this is what I'm about. You know, there's a lot of BS out there. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of people with vested interest in having you believe that eating a certain way is good for you. And it's nonsense. And, you know, I'm here to set people straight. I'm not here to make friends. And, you know, you always provide the caveat, like, look, I'm sure they're good people, or I'm not saying somebody's a bad person, but I disagree with this person. And then you're very, very frank. You know, you have the courage and the spine to be a lot more frank than most people are willing to be. And you welcome the criticism, because if you read the comments below your YouTube channel, like, I'm a thin-skinned guy, man. Like, I don't know if I can handle like people coming at me like they come at you, and you're wired for that. And like I said, like, I respect that, but I mean, does that bother you at all? Or I think you're a guy who just, you on some level, you're enjoying this, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You have to be.
Yeah. I wasn't wired for it though. I had to stay up late one night and get a soldering iron out there and a TIG welder and wire myself up. I put on a bit of a battle wiring because I wanted to help people, and I realized that I can't help people if I'm taking it personally what people say about me. I can't help people if I care more about what they think about me versus getting information to them. I can't help people if I'm being soft or taking it personally. I can't help people if I take things personally. So I just quickly got over that and thought, all right, this is the job. This is the goal. Nothing else matters. It's like riding a bike. You get a flat tire, you fix it, and you keep going. You crash, you get on your bike, you keep going. You break a pedal, you get a spare, you keep going. And so I just keep focusing on my goal, so it never, ever gets me down. If it starts to get me down a little bit, it means I need to get more sleep, water, sugar in. Simple as that. Right. I remember one time I did a bike race, and afterwards this guy was talking to me. He goes, "Oh, you got that guy from YouTube? Like, what do you know?" He started laying into me, and I was starting to get a little bit offended. I'm thinking, "Hang on, I never get offended." And I'm like, "Hang on, I need some more water." So I said, "Wait, I'll be back in a second, mate." So I grabbed a bottle of water, smashed it down, grabbed some dates, smashed them down. Said, "All right, I can answer your questions." And I was a different person within literally a minute of getting some water and sugar in. Different person. So I didn't take it personally. So I know if I'm starting to take it personally, I need more sleep, water, sugar, or three.
or three, right? So so you begin to post these videos, and was there one video in particular that went more viral than the others, or was there a moment where you thought, "Wow, I'm actually getting," like, when did the audience start to arrive?
My first few videos, I got about 5, 10, 20 views. And my channel was pretty dormant for about 3 years. And then I started doing videos critiquing like Daniel Vitalis, Dave Wolf, Susan Schenk, etc., just disagreeing with information and just sharing my opinion. And that sparked a lot of controversy in the health food movement, because in the health food world, they're like, hang on, don't judge people, just accept everything how it is. Even if it's bad information, just accept it. And I'm like, well, I disagree with that, and this is my opinion, and I'm going to share it. I'm going to use YouTube and social media as a platform to share it with, and then went from there. Right.
So did it begin with David Wolf? I mean, who was the first person that you kind of took to task?
I think it was the recently deceased Agnes Vanderplanets. That's not his real name, but that's his author name. He was talking about Agnes.
Who's that?
It's this guy who promotes eating raw feces mixed on raw meat. True story. Like, look it up. Primal diet.
I've never even heard of that.
He died recently, apparently from heart attack. He had a heart attack and fell off a roof in Thailand. Rest in peace. But so I did a critique on Agnes's book, and Agnes tried to sue me for that, claiming a copyright claim and stuff like that, and which I got that overturned. And that was my sort of first taste, and then I went after David Wolf, and then he tried to sue me, and then I was like, hang on, I'm getting sued for telling the truth. I'm gonna keep telling the truth then.
Well, as a lawyer, I could tell you, truth is the ultimate defense to any of those kind of claims, right? So, I mean, did you successfully get all of these claims dismissed, or what happened?
Well, I just realised that it was civil versus criminal. And I talked to a few of my lawyer friends, they're like, yeah, there's nothing they can do, Harley. Like, it would cost so much money for them to try and do anything. This is just scare tactics, just waste their time, and they'll give up. And they did. Now I learned that.
So were they actually like suing you, or just sending you like cease and desist letters
cease and desist,
that kind of
and
thing?
I got one from Supreme Court of San Diego, from Dave Wolf and stuff like that. So yeah, but at the time I was like, oh my god, and then I realised, I think this is a scare tactics, nothing to be worried about. And now I enjoy when I get some legal paperwork, because what I do is I read it and then throw it in the recycling bin, and then send an email to that lawyer firm, whatever, and say, actually, I got the paperwork, but I lost it. Could you send out another copy? And I just keep doing that until it racks up, a few $100, a few $1,000 for whoever's trying to sue me. And eventually they get the message and they stop sending it out to me.
All right, man. So, I mean, we're in a situation, I don't know what the stats are in Australia, but in North America, the health statistics are just appalling. 1 out of every 2 Americans is likely to contract heart disease. 1 out of every 3 can suffer a heart attack. Childhood obesity rates are through the roof. By 2030, I think 50% of Americans will be diabetic or pre-diabetic. 28 million people all over the world suffering from cancer. I mean, these are crazy, crazy statistics. And then we have all of these people professing this diet and that diet, and this is how you're going to lose weight, and blah blah blah. And there's a lot of confusion out there. And I think that the food companies enjoy it that way, because the more confusion there is, then the more likely people are to just keep doing what they're doing and saying, well, if these people can't even figure it out, then we're going to remain golden. And and you've taken this sword and you're trying to cut a wide swath through all of this stuff. And there are all these I'm like conflicted, because there's all these warring kind of factions within the health food world. You have the just to sort of state the obvious, the low carb, high fat people, the paleo people, the Atkins people. You have the raw food people. You have the primal, these tiny distinctions between paleo and primal, and then the raw milk people and the vegan people who are doing it for ethical reasons versus the people that are doing it for health reasons. And then we have, people like yourself and Michael Arnstein and Doug Graham, who are, succeeding and doing well with this 80-10-10 diet. And you're the third person I've had on the podcast. I had Michael Arnstein on, and I had Mac Danzig on more recently, who was talking about how he's been doing it now probably 4 months, 5 months, and he was feeling great, and couldn't say enough nice things about how great he was feeling and how he really believed that this was a good path for him. And my conflict really is, I'm focused on the people that are still eating McDonald's. And when we go and we kind of go to the mat and we're fighting amongst ourselves, are we helping that guy or are we hurting that guy? And I'm not saying I have the answer. And I kind of come from a much softer place from you. than you do in terms of trying to bridge the gap. Whereas you come at it hard and you have this massive following of passionate people. So what you're doing is working. We're different. I think we have the same goals. I mean, is that accurate? Do you think that that's fair?
100%. I know that there's different demographics out there. We need every single demographic represented. So we need people professional like yourself. We need clowns like me. We need everybody representing at some level that appeals to all the many demographics and subcultures and races and religions out there. So I think everyone's doing what they should be doing. I don't think anyone's style is right. I think maybe a style is right for that demographic, but not for every demographic.
Right.
So I think we all need...
It was funny because when my book came out, somebody emailed me and they said, "Oh yeah, Durianrider, he reviewed your book. You should check it out." They sent me a link, and I was like, I had like a panic moment. I was afraid you were gonna like attack me, And you were very kind. I appreciated the kind words that you said about my book. It meant a lot to me. But I was like, Harley makes me nervous, man. I don't want to get on the wrong side of this guy. He's gonna attack me,
No, that's a good book. I did a 200k ride on that book. I was like, Finding Ultra sounds like a good book to listen to while I'm riding my bike on a big ride. So I did a 200k ride June or July last year in the Gold Coast, Australia. And you're talking about this Springbok facility you went to. And just as you said, Springbok, I'm riding past a Springbok sign to the Springbok National Park.
That's crazy.
Just as you said it, man. And I like shivers up my spine. I was like, yeah. And so I did an 8-hour ride that day, listened to most of the book, and then finished off the next day. And I was like, this is good stuff.
So I think I saw, well, thank you for that. And that's cool. I like when the universe gives you little messages like that. I saw one video, it was a while ago. I can't remember when it was, but you had mentioned that you were working on a book. Is that going on?
Still going on. And I think this book's definitely going to get me sued. Because the good thing about self-publishing a book is I can write whatever I want to write. There's no YouTube policing or Facebook policing or Instagram policing. So this book's going to ruffle a lot of feathers. And I've got stories I'm going to put out there. I'm just going to put it all out there in this book.
Can you tell me a story? One of the stories?
Just talking about... I'm not sure what I can say, but let me think of a story that would be appropriate.
All right, we can go back to it if you want. But I know Michael Arnstein's working on a book too.
Yeah, he is.
Fruit is fast food. So yeah, it would be great to get your voice out there and get it in writing and go beyond YouTube and get something that people can put in their hands and read from your perspective, because you have a very, very powerful point of view, and it's reaching a lot of people, man, and you're doing a lot of good, and you are ruffling feathers, but it's I think there's a big part of me that's like, we need a revolution. People are really sick, and it's like I've been traveling a lot lately. I'm in a lot of airports, and you just see really unhealthy people, and the line at the McDonald's in the airport is a mile long, and there's no healthy options, and you just think like, what is going on? We're just upside down on this whole thing.
It's so easy now with social media. I'm trying to target the young kids out there, the sub 20 or the sub 25-year-old girls and guys. That's my target audience now, because I feel that's the next generation coming through, and they're the most easy to influence because they want to look good and be slim and lean or whatever. And unfortunately, that's why.
And I think they also have a lot of them have parents that are overweight or sick or whatever, and they're seeing that, and they're like, I don't want that. What can I do to be different and not be suffering the way that my parents are?
Especially the girls. I mean, most of my talks is a female audience because they're like, well, I want to get skinny, I want to get slim, freely, I want to lose the weight. What do I do? And they're sick of the starving or the thyroid drugs or whatever, and they just want to get slim and still feel sane. So we used to focus on health, and health's good, but unfortunately people are more motivated by aesthetics than health today. And so I understand that, but the good thing is our aesthetic message is the best message for health as well.
Right. So I can get totally down with 80-10-10, and I've talked to enough people that are experiencing great results like yourself on it. So I have no problem with being on board with that as something that that is advisable, because I've just seen too many people that are thriving on it. Michael Arnstein, just can't say enough great things about it. And like I said, Mac Danzig, etc. But I will say, like I watched a few videos, and I've been watching the ones where now you're experimenting with all this processed sugar and you're pouring all this sugar on your cereal. And then I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that. So tell me what's going on with that, man. Come on. You're like, pour like half a bag of sugar on your cereal.
Yeah, like half a pound or more. I just want to help people understand the concept. In the raw food world, it's like fruit's bad because fruit's got a lot of sugar in it. In the low carb world, or the standard American, standard Australian diet world, people are like, oh, fruit's bad because it's got a lot of sugar in it. I've been eating so much sugar from fruit for over a decade. And I got my blood tests, my hemoglobin A1C, my blood sugar levels, testosterone, all my thyroid. Everything's all perfect with no medications. So the fruit's good. And I'm lean as, and I don't do much training compared to guys.
I have no problem saying fruit's good, but can we create a distinction between fruit and the processed sugar that you're pouring on your cereal, or are you saying that it doesn't matter?
I'm saying it doesn't matter, but fruit is obviously a better choice because it's got all your enzymes and nutrients and fiber with it. I want to help debunk the myth that sugar causes obesity or whatever. And by pouring some sugar on some cereal in a YouTube video or in my smoothie, I can help create a little bit of a wave there. But I honestly do consume that much sugar if I can't get enough sweet fruit. When I'm in Thailand and the US, the fruit's a lot sweeter there, so I don't really have to go to the sugar. But in Australia, if I'm a bit strapped for sugars from fruits, then I'll just smash in some organic processed sugar on some fruit or some rice or some sort of low sodium cereal with a bit of organic rice milk or whatever. I have no issue with that at all. And I want to give people options so anyone can eat healthy, anyone can eat lean and clean foods. And obviously the sugar, processed sugar, has got a very, very bad stigma. But I'm so sensitive. I can only eat really, really clean food. So if I can get away with that, then anyone can, really.
But the problem is that there are people, drinking big gulps left and right, or drinking, 12 Cokes a day. And, and that's kind of like their go-to thing. And these people are contracting diabetes all over the place, right? They're obese. They're just on the high fructose corn syrup like all day long. And do you worry that when you put a video out like that it will get misinterpreted?
Oh, definitely. It's cool. Everything I do is going to get misinterpreted by someone, but at least they're thinking about it and maybe create a bit of discussion. Like, oh, that Durianrider guy, he's crazy, but it creates a bit of discussion. If you look on any health forum on the internet and type in Durianrider, I'm there. People are talking about it. So I want to create discussion, but with the big gulps and stuff, the issue, I haven't drunk a Coca-Cola since September 2000 when I was watching the Sydney Olympics. I believe Coke is poison. It's not because of the sugar, it's because of the phosphoric acid, all the black stuff in there, and the nasties in the Coke. I don't think it's the sugar. The sugar is fine, but it's what people have with the sugar. Generally, when people have a big gulp lemonade or whatever, they're having like ribs or chicken wings and all this fat with it. So they're putting all this fat in their bloodstream, then they're having some sugars, and it's skyrocketing their blood sugar. But I've got some friends who are heroin addicts, and they all just live on candy and like lollies, not chocolate, but just like lollies and soft drink soda, and they're slim as. Obviously, they're not healthy by any means.
Right. Yeah, like, I don't know what you're, I don't know any, there aren't very many overweight heroin addicts.
No, but
there are some. But
you're right. There is some. I have met some overweight meth and heroin addicts, and they're the ones who eat the sausages and stuff. My experience with drugs, I used to do a lot of drugs myself back in the day in the 90s. Most people do drugs, I've found out, for weight loss. Most people are addicted to meth and that because they want to get slimmer, or coke and stuff like that. It makes you feel good, but then you start getting slim. You think, wow, I'm sort of looking a bit better. That's probably another topic. But the whole processed sugar is a non-issue. It's what people eat the sugar with. And I wouldn't drink Coke because it's got all the phosphoric acid and all the nasties in there. But I'll pour organic sugar into my banana smoothie or organic coconut sugar in there, no worries. But if you hand me a can of Coke, I'd say no thanks.
It's definitely controversial because you have on the other side of this coin, you have this whole group of people and a group of people who kind of really have the microphone right now who are saying sugar's bad. Not only is sugar bad, all sugar is bad. And your body can't distinguish whether this sugar is coming from fruit or processed sugar. It's all bad, and you should not eat any fruit either, and that this is evil, like coming from the Robert Lustigs and that kind of camp. So your response to that is what?
They are correct. Sugar's sugar, pretty much. Like my diabetic friends, when they have sugar from fruit or sugar from Coke or whatever, it pretty much works the same. If you've got a little bit of fibre, it's a bit of a slow release, but it pretty much affects your blood sugar the same if you're eating a high-fat diet. But if people go on a fruitarian 80-10-10 style diet, they reverse their type 2 diabetes in a few days or a few weeks. So they cut the fat out and